Alexandra from PersEd.
And this is Paul from the Time Repair Corporation.
And we both welcome you to our monthly Interchange.
A meeting of the minds, people reaching outside of themselves to attempt a deeper understanding of perspectives.
And it is through this coming together of perspectives that we hope to serve the divergent, the polymaths, the change makers, the angels of chaos. Well, in short, the non-conforming thinkers and those who cannot fit into molds.
We want to achieve that by inviting those troublemakers from around the world and digging into their experiences and their unique views.
And these views, we are bringing them forth and supporting them with models. Models for education, models for sustainability, models for change, because we want to design a system. We want to help design a system that is fit for the future. But it's also a lot more than that.
We would really like to grow that conversation so that more people can weigh in and contribute to the practical creation of tomorrow. So reach out to us and let's make this, as much as possible, a borderless interchange.
Today's guest is a champion of interdisciplinarity and change. Well, obviously, that is kind of what we do at Interchange and why we have guest speakers at Interchange. He is the winner of the Digital Champions Award in 2019. He won the third place of the CIO of the Year Award in the same year, and the second place of the Digital Leader Award the year before that. And who knows what kind of nomination or awards he might receive in 2021. We'll see about that. And since he is far too modest to share any of those, that's why I took on the responsibility of sharing that with you today. His name is Bernd Preuschoff. He's from Germany, and he carries around 30 years of ballroom dance experience and 20 years of digital transformation experience. You might think, okay, these are two different worlds, but guess what? He succeeded in bridging the gap, in building amazing, beautiful bridges between the world of ballroom dance on one hand and the world of digital transformation on the other hand. And after having been an associate partner at IBM, he is now working as Chief Digital Officer and Chief Executive Officer at uvex Group. Please welcome with me, Bernd Preuschoff. Bernd, how are you doing today?
Hello, Alexandra. Hello, Paul. Thanks for having me. I'm doing very, very well. And after this fabulous introduction, I couldn't feel any better. You made my day. Thanks for being with you.
Well, thanks
Absolutely.
for being with us today. Thank you for being part of this. I am sure that we're going to have a quite interesting conversation. Not every day that you go on the streets and you ask around, hey, do you know how you can learn to be better at XYZ by being a dancer? So if you do that and you go in the streets and ask people this question, people will look at you, what are you saying? Are you serious? Are you okay? Are you sick or something? Where do you come from? Are you lost? And so it's interesting to have this type of conversation that is not very common, but that in the same time can shed so much light on these spaces between spaces and can connect the dots in very special and very, very unique ways.
Absolutely. And I get this question very often, how did it come, that these two parts of my life have been interlinked so heavily? And my thoughts on that, it all comes back to how we humans interact. And business is the same thing. If we go back many, many thousands of years, once we developed language, this is where we started to share stories. And these were the stories that, built communities. And of course, there's also moments where language is not enough anymore. And this is where your body and music come into play. And if you see in how many areas of our life, let it be religion, let it be a wedding, let it be a funeral, whenever we have the feeling that there's not enough words to express what's going on inside of ourselves, this is where people start to dance. And so I think looking at dancing can teach you a lot about how we humans were made to interact, where we see value in this interaction, how we achieve things together. And same thing we want to achieve when we do business. The point that I see that especially happened in the digital space over the last 5, 6, 7 years, it has been very much driven by inventing methods. And it has been very complex. If you're starting your digital career right now, you literally get flooded with books and speeches on methods that you need to learn to succeed. And yes, of course, these methods are important and we need them to tackle the innovation. But on the other hand, sometimes I get this feeling that we are losing people to the impression, as long as I learn enough methods, I will master this. And this is the point why I have the strong confidence that no, you won't. You need to tackle the invisible. You need to tackle this point where 1 + 1 becomes more than 2. You need to tackle this magic of getting into a flow with a team, your employees, and your partners in order to not just do a digital project or start a digital strategy, but rather create a movement. And I think this is where we can learn a lot from what dancers do on a daily basis. Like you said, I've been a competitive dancer and I'm working as a dancing coach for some decades. And I'm always amazed what people can achieve when they come together on a human basis and work together on a common goal to achieve the moment where they get into the floor and when people stand up and give them applause. And this is basically the same thing we want to achieve in the digital arena. So this is where I see the parallels.
And what brought the dancer, because you started dancer quite young, what brought the dancer to the world of business and to the world of digital transformation?
Basically, I have to say that it took me some time to see that both facets of my life have been there for a reason. In the beginning, when I was a young boy, you know, there's this legendary story in my family, because everybody asks me, how did you start to dance? And it all started with a funny moment when my mother, who was still alive back then, came to me when I was 14 years old, and she was an avid dancer, very much to the frustration of my father, because every time they went out, he came back really, you know, being really tired, and my mother smiling, you know, and she came to me and said, okay, my son, don't you think it's time for you to have dancing lessons? And I said this legendary sentence, me dancing, never. and then I ended up, you know, I'm coming from a little town where everybody is kind of attending the same things and going to the same places, and my class, my school class, actually went to the local dancing school, and so I said, okay, come on, my friends are going there, I'm joining them, and the rest is history. I never figured out until I was an adult man why dancing really, you know, tightly knit itself into my soul. when I started my professional career, my father was a businessman himself, and he would have loved to see me, you know, getting into his footsteps, which I wasn't convinced very much of in the beginning. So I started to study physics, and later realizing that it's probably not the thing that I want to do for the next 40 years. And then I started to get into his footsteps, and it was basically the right decision. And when I ended up, you know, working as a consultant in the digital space, I suddenly realized that I was using methods of my sports career. And I realized, you know, when you are entering a room with C-level people, it's very much the same as when you are standing in front of a couple who wants to win the next competition. You have to create and work. Each one of these persons has to work intensively on being excellent as a soloist. But once they are excellent soloists, this is where the work begins, to bring them together and create a team performance, which is much more than two soloists holding hands. And it's the same thing when you are working with a CEO, CFO, COO, same thing. And you have different roles, like you have in a couple. You have a leader and a follower in a couple, and same thing in a boardroom. And this is where I realized that I was interchanging methods between these two areas of my life. And so this is how a dancer became a digital strategist in the end, and a digital leader. And one step further, you know, realizing why dancing made such an impact made me also learn about what matters to me as a digital leader. I already mentioned it. My mother died then very early in my life. And that was the point, you know, when you are raised in a very traditional family with a rather old father, it's more about, you know, taking responsibility, taking your duties, and taking care of everything that needs to be done. It's not so much about emotions. And I learned later that dancing literally saved my life by giving me the opportunity to express all my emotions in a safe place, and even the sad ones, you know, even all the tragedy or the difficult situations that you have experienced in your life. The dancing floor is a place to let them all go out and show them. And the fun thing is, you even get applause for it if you have told that story in the right way. And I was thinking the same also in business. You know, sometimes we hide so much under that shield called professionalism, and we forget that we are all people with emotions. We all have a history. We all carry our cross from our past. And wouldn't we be a much more human society if we would meet as those and say, okay, this is me, this is my history, this is my emotions. And from the role and what I've practiced, this is what I can bring to the table as knowledge. And now let's see what we can do together as an amazing couple, as an amazing team, and create something that matters for us as the ones who are doing it, but also that matters for the ones watching us, and inviting them to maybe have that same experience. And by that, in the words of the dancer, create a movement. And yeah, so this is basically what made me the person I am today.
You know, I was actually planning to ask you about precisely what you just talked about, the connection between that ballroom dance and your role as a transformation officer, as someone in business, how you brought something new. But I'm really fascinated by this idea of those two separate facets. Like each of us is a gemstone. Maybe we need some polishing, maybe we need a little cleaning up, but those different facets of our lives are looking in at the same core, the same soul, the same inner parts. And that if there's anything going on in those inner parts, as you were saying, emotions that aren't getting out because one facet is just not angled to let those out, the importance of being able to shine light through from one and see the effect from another.